Preface. Is not this a wonderful time, and era long to be remembered? Susan B. Anthony, 1854. If 19th century suffragists were still alive today, watching us relax in our blue jeans while machines wash our dishes and laundry, they might be tempted to mock us with tweets about our #modern world problems. But they would also see how far we haven't come. Much has changed in the United States of America since the battle for women's suffrage. But human nature remains, and so does patriarchy. A new generation of feminists is fighting to overcome overt and subtle sexism across the nation and the world. And we could learn a thing or two from the feminists who came before us. I started researching the suffragist movement to inform my own activism. I wanted to know the suffragists better because I was walking a similar path, nearly 200 years later. And I wanted to know more than what they said and did. I wanted to know who they were. What ignited their passion for women's rights? How did they devote their lives to such exhausting and often disappointing work? How did they balance their activism with their families, careers, and personal lives? American suffragists weren't called suffragettes, by the way, which is too bad because suffragettes is so much easier for me to say without sounding like I have a lisp. In spite of the name, I can relate to suffragists. Like me, they were activists who nursed babies and pursued careers. Suffragists were deliberate in their efforts to change society for the women who would follow them, but they weren't necessarily trying to live their everyday lives as examples. After coming home from their public advocacy efforts, they were minding their own business, attending to their own love lives, families, and occupations, with no thought that a busybody like me might examine their personal affairs someday. I don't doubt that several of them would raise an eyebrow if they knew I was prying into their personal lives to find something to emulate. But I am doing it anyway. Suffragists left us with a much less sexist world, but we still have work to do. If we can draw morality tales from the lives of the Founding Fathers, learning from stories about them that probably weren't even true. Yes, George Washington, I'm talking about you and your cherry tree. How much more could we learn from the real, lived experiences of those who founded liberty for women after the Founding Fathers neglected to? And anyhow, they certainly won't object at this point. This book shares the stories and wisdom of some of the first Americans to suggest that women should have equal rights with men. They fought for equality in the 1830s to the 1860s, when the idea was radical and its supporters were vilified. From the comfort of the 21st century, it can be tempting to skip ahead from this inhospitable beginning to 1920, when their efforts were rewarded with the 19th Amendment, granting most women the right to vote. The women who lived through this era had no such luxury. Most of these women didn't live to see the 19th Amendment's passage. None of them were around when the voting rights promised by the 19th Amendment finally became a reality for Native American and Southern Black women decades later. Let's sit with them for a while in their own time, when victories were few and the ultimate outcome was unknown. We should be able to relate, since we are at that same uncertain place with many of the modern causes we support today. How did suffragists cope with such challenging work through so many decades of minimal success? What kept them going? What can we learn from their accomplishments? How can we avoid their mistakes? Let's meet them and see what they can teach us.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.